Joanna, the Forgotten Queen. Tordesillas, Spain. April 12, 1555. In the flickering light of dying candles, an aged woman lay motionless on a cold wooden bed. Her hair, once a fiery red, had turned ghostly white. Her green eyes, which once bewitched an entire court, were now vacant, gazing into a past no one else could see. She was Joanna of Castile, daughter of the mighty monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, the rightful Queen of Spain, yet she spent nearly half a century imprisoned by her own family. Was she truly mad, or merely a victim of a cruel and calculated political scheme? Chapter 1. The Princess of Promise. Joanna was born on November 6, 1479, in Toledo, during the golden age of the Spanish kingdom. As the third child of the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, Joanna was no ordinary princess. She was destined to bridge the most powerful royal bloodlines in Europe. Educated like a future sovereign, she was fluent in Latin and French, versed in mathematics and philosophy, an exceptional feat for a woman of her time. But it was not just her intellect that captivated those around her. Joanna was breathtaking. Flaming red hair, sea-green eyes, and a regal presence that turned heads in every court. At the age of 16, Joanna was married off to Philip the Handsome, heir to the Habsburg dynasty and the Holy Roman Empire. The political union aimed to strengthen ties between Spain and the Habsburgs. But fate, as it so often does, had darker plans. When they first met in Leuven, it was love at first sight, at least for Joanna. She was consumed by a passion so intense that it defied royal decorum. But Philip, though dazzling and charming, was no faithful husband. At his Flemish court, infamous for its hedonism, he openly flaunted his infidelities. Joanna, raised in the austere Catholic court of Spain, was devastated. Her jealousy was fierce, her pain unbearable. And then came the rumors of madness. It said that Joanna once violently cut the hair off a lady-in-waiting she suspected of seducing Philip. Another time, while heavily pregnant, she watched over Philip during an entire feast, refusing to let him out of her sight. That very night, she went into labor and gave birth to her second son, Charles, the future emperor, within the palace walls. To outsiders, her behavior seemed unhinged. But was it madness, or the emotional torment of a betrayed woman, isolated in a foreign land? Chapter 2, The Throne in the Cage. In 1504, tragedy struck. Joanna's mother, Queen Isabella, died. In her will, Isabella named Joanna as the rightful heir to the Kingdom of Castile. But the queen had inserted a caveat. If Joanna were deemed incapable, her father Ferdinand could assume regency. The throne was now Joanna's, but so was the target on her back. Ferdinand, unwilling to relinquish power, plotted to undermine his daughter. Philip likewise saw an opportunity to claim power through his wife. In the ensuing power struggle, Joanna, the legal sovereign, was pushed aside. And then another shock. In 1506, Philip died suddenly at the age of 28, reportedly after drinking cold water following a tennis match. Poison, some whispered, perhaps by Ferdinand, perhaps by Castilian nobles fearing Habsburg control. Joanna was devastated. Refusing to part with her husband's body, she had it embalmed and began a bizarre months-long procession across Castile, transporting his coffin under the cover of night away from convents, fearing nuns might gaze upon him. She even gave birth to her youngest child, Catherine, during this macabre journey. This infamous episode etched into legend the image of a mad queen obsessed with a dead husband. But modern historians argue that such rituals were not uncommon in royal mourning traditions. Moreover, Joanna remained politically active during this period, proof that her mind was still sharp. Still, the incident gave her father all the excuse he needed. Ferdinand declared Joanna insane and locked her away in the royal palace of Tordesillas, on the banks of the Duero River. She was only 30 years old. Chapter 3, 46 Years in the Shadows. What followed was one of the longest imprisonments of any royal in history, and one of its most heartbreaking. At first, Joanna was permitted a few ladies-in-waiting. Her daughter Catherine stayed by her side, but when Ferdinand died, her son, Charles Fed, took over. Instead of freeing her, he tightened the chains. Catherine was removed. Letters were intercepted, guards were doubled. The queen was entirely cut off from the world. Witnesses described a woman left in darkness, deprived of heat in winter, bound when she resisted, forced to wear the same clothes for weeks. Doctors bled her, purged her, subjected her to primitive treatments designed more to control than to heal. In 1520, a sliver of hope appeared. The Comuneros' revolt broke out in Castile, with rebels hoping to restore Joanna as active monarch. For a brief moment she appeared in public. She attended council meetings. Observers noted she was melancholy, but perfectly coherent. When the revolt failed, so did any chance of her freedom. This time, the confinement was absolute. Her new jailer, the Marquise of Denia, wrote to Charles, "At times she must be punished harshly. I must lie to her and say, 'Your Majesty is coming,' to calm her down." Outside her prison, Europe was reborn. The Renaissance flourished. Her children became rulers, empresses, queens. Her son ruled half the known world. Yet Joanna was forgotten, frozen in time. In her later years, Joanna's body failed her. She suffered heart problems, pain, disorientation. When Francis Borgia, a future saint, visited her, he described her as a shadow, but one who still debated theology with clarity. On April 12, 1555, Joanna died in Tordesillas, aged 75. She had spent 46 years in prison, never crowned, never truly free. Her body was buried in Granada, next to the very people who betrayed her, her husband, her father, her mother. A bitter reunion in death. Epilogue. Madness or machination? Was Joanna truly mad? Or was madness the label used to neutralize a powerful woman in a man's world? Letters from before her imprisonment suggest a sharp mind. Eyewitnesses described her as lucid, if sorrowful. In an era when passion, independence, or nonconformity in women could be punished with exile, or worse, Joanna was easy to condemn. Madness was a convenient political tool. Her father used it to rule Castile. Her husband used it to seize power. Her son used it to keep control of his empire. And so a queen was caged. Joanna once said, "If they let me rule, they would see I am the daughter of Queen